Views and opinions expressed on this platform are of me, myself, and I, not any agency I'm affiliated with. So please do not take what I say personally. Today's guest is Donovan Davis. Donovan and I have worked together numerous amount of times, and in the words of one of our recent patients, quote, "We make a great team." He's a paramedic at the company that I, at this time, that this episode's going to release, formerly worked at. And he's just overall a good dude. He also has aspirations to open an all you can eat ice cream bar buffet. I, for one, will be a strong supporter of such business endeavors. So, Donovan, if you want to tell the people who you are, what you stand for, go ahead, my dude.
Told you about the ice cream bar in confidence. No, but I'm Donovan. I've been a paramedic for almost 2 years now. I just what was your question again?
Who you are, what you stand for.
What I stand for. That's right. I stand for goodwill and peace for humanity. And no, I just like helping people, and like this job, love it.
Is there any sarcasm with that?
Some days. Most days not. It's understandable.
So let's go through the journey. Everyone buckle up, get ready. Donovan, do tell. Why did you get into this job? Just tell me your start from an EMT baby basic all the way to the paramedic extraordinaire that you are today.
Well, I'd say it started when I was a freshman in high school. During that time, I was always drawn to service, whether it was police or fire or the military. And that's when I saw this documentary where it followed a group of Air Force pararescue men in Afghanistan. And within 10 minutes of watching this first episode in this documentary, I was like, what? I'm going to do that. And so throughout high school, I took all sorts of like health and medical classes I could. Went through junior ROTC, hoping to get into the military. And in my senior year, I was disqualified from military service.
Oh.
Yeah. And after that time, it was tough because it was like the one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to be this kicking, life-saving pararescueman. But I just was like, I'm not doing anything else. I might as well go to school and get my medic license. And 3 years later, I graduated with my associates, and now I am the paramedic extraordinaire.
I would say so. What was it like whenever, if you want to talk about it, what was going through your mind whenever that dream was crushed? Because especially whenever you have something that big that you want to accomplish and then boom, over.
Oh, there was a lot of anger and resentment. A lot of that was placed at military. There's a reason I was disqualified. I had a heart condition. It's so minor. Like, even my cardiologist is like, nah, you're good. Like, she signed off on all of the stuff, and I wasn't limited by it. And, I go up there, and immediately, like, the doctors see it on my paperwork, and they're like, oh, yeah, let's listen. They're like, oh, yeah, your heart's messed up, so we're not going to take you. I'm like, huh? I'm like, I've been seeing this cardiologist for like several years now, and even then she's like, it's so minor. Like, what is going on with my heart? There's no limitations, nothing like that. While I was up there at the MEPS, like the processing station, I started arguing with these doctors. I'm like, are you freaking serious? Like, you barely even listened to my heart. You didn't do any form of assessment. They weren't happy with me. I wasn't happy with them. And it was about a year where it was just like anger, resentment, depression. Some of it I placed on God at that time. The heck? Did you give me this freaking heart defect? Like, what's going on here? And it was about a year later, started going to school, just trying to get on track to get my paramedic. And one of the kids I knew from high school, and every time we took a trip, he had his own separate bag, medicine, allergy stuff, and the military took him. So at that time, I was like, it wasn't my path. Like everything just kind of clicked. And so that's where it just kind of, it was like this new, like jumpstart motivation where I was like, okay, so this is the path I'm on now. This is the path I'm supposed to take.
Love the resolution. Love a good rescue Ricky.
Shut up.
So, in your journey in EMS, what keeps you going and what helps prevent burnout for you? Because, like I was our last shift, um, a little crispy, a little.
Very grouchy,
I
for
was,
sure.
I was grouchy. I was. So, in your own words, what prevents burnout for you, and what keeps you even going?
Oh, lots of compartmentalizing. um, and it's just finding what works for me. Back before fuel was so expensive, I would take drives pretty frequently. Like when I was in medic school, it was very cathartic, almost like my meditation in a way. Gardening helps me, and then also just finding people I can trust and rant and rave to. Other than that, it's just the reminder that this is the job I picked. Some days it is messy, and we get covered in literal crap sometimes. But at the end of the day, I signed up to help, and that's what I do.
Let's go back to something. What do you garden?
What do I garden?
Yeah.
Oh, it's been a minute since I have, but it was just little vegetables here and there. We had like tomatoes, we had some cucumber. I'd go out like every night, water them, add a little bit of fertilizer. Holy cow! And it was so relaxing. It was like more so than the driving. Like, that was where I found the most peace.
It's really adorable, I'm not gonna lie.
Don't you know I'm just a big softie?
Gonna fold me. So, when would you say you leave a shift and think, like, man, that was a good shift because blank? Because, like, our last shift for me, it was that precious, precious elderly lady who was in 10 out of 10 immense pain, real life pain, not like, ooh, it hurts, like real pain. And for her to sit there and look at us and say, like, thank you guys so much for being so kind and considerate. And I mean, we gave her pain meds, but like, nothing life saving. That's what does it for me. So, what does it for you?
I don't know. I think that's always good every now and then. Um, but for me, it's mostly knowing, like, at the end of the day, I just saved that person's life. I had a 2-year-old, like, severe respiratory distress, and it was super stressful. It's paged out as an echo, and I'm like, no, I am not doing this tonight. But we get there, kids breathing, struggling with it. But we gave them, their family gave them, a breathing treatment, which was perfect. And all I had to do was just monitor and reassess, going back to the basics. Like airway clear, breathing is increased. There's a little bit of low by oxygen, and knowing that just that little bit for that patient helped, and that's great. And I've had other calls where it's like they are crashing in front of me, and knowing that I was able to go through the steps, whether it's giving them pressors or pacing or whatever it may be, where I get them stable enough that the hospital and the care staff there is able to do what they need to do, that's more than enough for me.
Very good. So, with the mindset of like when you leave a shift and think it was good because XYZ and the heartwarming answer you just gave, no sarcasm, real life. What is your favorite type of call? There are hundreds, and I'm not going to go through the spiel. We all know by now cardiac respiratory trauma site codes, lift assist, refusals. I drank too much, and now that's why my son called 911 type of calls. What would you say is your favorite type?
Trauma. Hands down. Trauma.
Trauma junkie?
A little bit, yeah.
What is it about trauma calls? Because, kind of like you said, back to the basics, it is the ABCs through and through airway, breathing, and circulation, stopping the bleed. Is it because it's the same? You start your 218s, you get them, and
I should say not just any trauma. I mean, like that's the best. Like someone just plowed by a freaking car, and they're messed up. You know what I mean? And like you have all these distracting injuries, and you have to work through your process. And like, what's going on? What do I have to correct first? I love that. But then on the other hand, I also have a reputation to uphold. Psycho. For those who don't know, I have been called Psych Whisperer.
you do actually do really well with the psych patients. And I try to like gleam a little bit from you every time we have a psych call, but I'm also like in my own headspace a little bit, so do appreciate that.
I don't know what you talk about. You just jump to Versette. Like, that's what you do.
like that one guy, do you remember he like I don't know if he broke into a car, but he like jumped off the roof or something like
The
that?
carport. Cut his
Yes.
hands open. That was a great call.
So you were like talking to him, and I'm already like going to the bag. I'm like, man, I'm grabbing the verse set. I'm like, 10 from the get go. Let's go. Let's do this. Not that I can't be compassionate and try to meet the person where they're at, but sometimes I don't have it in me. I'm just being very blatantly honest. I don't have it in me to deal with it.
Oh, and honestly, it's tough. I mean, like, you could tell the dude was on all sorts of stuff. Like, he alcohol and just his presentation. Like, he's on some stimulant. And, I was able to, calm him down a little bit just by talking to him, but sometimes cops do not help. And Versed was our friend.
And it worked.
Worked so well.
As someone once said, the mighty power of Versed.
Was that me?
No,
Dang it.
but it's a good quote.
But then as for craziest call, I think I have to be this 18-month-old. This lady was intoxicated, was speeding and wrecked her car. The kid was restrained in the car seat, but the car seat wasn't restrained. So it, ricocheted all over the car, and it was kind of like beat to crap. And when we get on scene, all messed up. Some just random person is like, "Yeah, they're in my house." Everyone's freaking out, and as I'm walking to the house, I have the entire fire crew walking out. And they're like, "We don't know where they are," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" So I go in. It's the parent is like not responding to me at all. So I'm like, concussed. Like, does she have a head injury? Is she intoxicated? What's going on? She's apprehensive. She's not talking to me at all. So okay. Anyway, the kid was super lethargic, not responding appropriately, but was luckily crying. Like, that's great. And it had this massive, like, say, on the front of his head. Officer was like, "Well, we need to do our investigation, so she needs to stay here." I'm like, "Okay, I'm taking the kid. I'll be in the ambulance." And rush out there, and I found no other injuries except this head injury. So I'm like, let's get going. Um, and just like the mess of everything on scene. I have firefighters freaking out. I have bystanders screaming about mom and the baby, and just trying to curse through all of that excess on scene, trying to figure out what's going on. was challenging but fun all at the same time. It's like, hey, you guys shut up. I'm toning all of you out like I have like two patients here right
And I feel like people don't understand that, like, it's not the things we see or hear or smell that makes the job difficult. It is all the other aspects of, like, scene management and, like, you're talking about the bystanders, the police officers, the firefighters who are freaking out for sometimes, honestly, no reason. That's what makes it stressful. Because while you're trying to do one thing and you have to focus on your patient and focus on, like you said, your assessment and treatment, interventions, all that, you have everything else going on, and sometimes it can't help but distract you just a touch because it can be overwhelming.
now. Absolutely. And I think those just crazy scenes are my favorite because I just get to boss people around. Be like, hey, this is what I need. This is what you need to do. And get out of my way. Thank you.
Please have a back seat. Thank
Yep.
you. Goodbye.
No, but at the end of the day, it's just BLS. And, where that kid started to improve, that's great. That's great. That's perfect. And always makes you feel good, especially when you don't have to do much and they just improve anyway.
That is one thing. In EMS, we love quiet adults and crying babies. No, I do want to highlight that. No matter how many cool tips and tricks and whatever you got up your sleeve as a paramedic and advanced EMT, whatever, even on national registry, like your big tests and stuff like that, your skills test, all that, the core of it is making sure you can go back to the basics, back to your ABCs. There's a reason why the acronym is so easy to remember, and making sure you cover those bases and doing a good, thorough assessment before you really even start trying to like think of like the I don't know, starting an IV or doing a 12 lead or anything like that. You got to get that basic history assessment, presentation, all of the above. So I do appreciate that you said that. I feel like it's not highlighted enough. So what would you say to someone either thinking about going into EMS, someone already in EMS, someone thinking about taking the leap and enduring this adventure of EMS as a whole? What is a piece of advice you would give to them?
Don't be afraid to fail, especially if you're going through medic school. You're there to learn. And one thing that I wish I would have done more was fail. Because there was a lot that there were a few hard lessons I learned when I started working. And the more you're able to learn and absorb while you're going through your clinical rotations and all your training is incredibly beneficial. You're not going to learn it all. And honestly, the majority of my learning has come from the actual experience that I've gained in the last 2 years. I'd say that's the biggest. Um, as for someone who's thinking of EMS, it's tough. It is draining some days, rejuvenating others. You just need to decide if it's worth it at the end of the day. You might be up all night, like I was last week, running calls back to back and just dumb calls where it's like, why are you calling us? And other days you're gonna have just really sick people, and if you're lucky, you might not have anything. But I don't think anyone has that kind of luck.
It's actually a really good point of don't be afraid to fail. Because it's one thing if this stuff just comes naturally to you and you just know it and you're doing great, whatever. But when you fail, it kind of solidifies either information or skills or anything you're learning along the way because it kind of, I think it unlocks like a different part of your memory and brain and it solidifies it even more so. So I do appreciate that. What would you say you've learned in the time since you've gone into EMS that's wildly different from school? Because there's always those things of like,
Patient assessments. Like, I swear, when I was going through school, it was more so of trying to meet the requirements of the registry. and passing the test. Whereas in the field, it's okay. Now, what's actually going on? Like, I'm going to go in. I'm going to talk to the patient. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to feel for a pulse. Like, what's their skin condition? Is the pulse bounding? Is it thready? Or like what's their presentation? Because 100% of the time, we're going off of the presentation and what our assessments reveal to us.
Because you always do a thorough assessment. That is another thing I try to glean from you is that you do a good assessment.
Not all the time.
Most of the time. Everything after 3 a.m. doesn't count. If you could change it all, would you still take this path and go into EMS? Why or why not? Which is hard because, like you said, I feel like you weren't really, you were given an option, but plan A really fell through.
Yeah, definitely. I think if I could go back, I think having a perfect heart would be great. And being able to be in the military, kick ass and save lives and all that. But at the end of the day, I look at it and I would not survive in the military. I definitely have a problem with authority.
No.
And I think doing the civilian side of paramedicine is definitely my entry into everything, and I don't think I'd change that. I'm freaking young. I could go anywhere at this point. I can go higher level. I could just stay 911, but that's awful. No one can do that for 30 years.
No.
Yeah, I still have my life ahead of me, so like it's hard to say. Definitely though, it does come and go every now and then where I'm like, man, the military would have been cool. But that's also because it's just easy. You go where they tell you to, do what they tell you to do. But out here, I'm living for me. I get to decide what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and I love it.
I don't know, for me, I never thought EMS would even be in my forefront, but like, even on days where I feel crunchy and grouchy, I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
So, Donovan, you have anything else to add? The floor is yours.
Not really. I didn't prepare for this part. How about this weather?
Oh man. Well, if you don't have anything, I don't have anything. We'll go ahead and close it out.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on, my dude. It's been a pleasure, even though we rescheduled how many times?
Oh, so many times.
That's my bad.
Well, I had to reschedule too. You're not solely to blame.
But mostly.
Mostly, for sure.
I'll take it. So with that, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or future topic ideas, please email me at 22@thelipspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's 22@thelipspodcast@gmail.com. Be safe out there, friends, and never stop learning.
Oh, yes. It's this article I saw. And it is it racist to like big butts?
I'm so done with you.
That is the reaction I wanted, so thank you.
I thought it was going to be something good.
What do you mean? That's a great topic.
I tell you one time about cake, and now
Hey, you started this, okay?
you should have said it's a tight squeeze between the stretcher and the wall. But you didn't say it.
Shut up.